Hi there, this is your friend Anna, and the question that I've been getting the most from all of my friends is what are we wearing? This age-old question isn't just about choosing an outfit, it's about choosing how we present ourselves to the world. I created the I Want Her Shoes podcast to dive deep into what it means to dress with intention, whether you're heading to a council meeting or just having a casual day out with your family. Join the conversation as we explore the power of personal style and the decisions that shape our public personas. Put on your favorite pair of shoes and step into my closet. All right, welcome back to that Want Her Shoes podcast where we explore the powerful intersection of style, success, and substance. I'm your host, Anna, and today we're joined by an extraordinary woman reshaping how we think about wellness, technology, and what it truly means to live. Florence Shaffer, innovation strategist, global tech executive, and co-founder of Becoming, a human performance concierge, helping people reset their lives from the inside out. I'm really excited to learn more about that. And Florence's resume is as awe-inspiring as her presence, and from executive roles at Burberry and Estée Lauder to leading global digital transformation across luxury, fashion, automotive, and beauty industries. She spent 20 years building systems at the intersection of technology and human behavior, which is super interesting. But what makes Florence's story truly powerful isn't just what she built in boardrooms, it's how she rebuilt her life after a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. Instead of treating it like a battle, she treated it like a reset, and the result, a whole new way of living and leading. Florence, welcome to the show. So great to have you here.
It's an honor.
And let's begin at the root. What shaped your outlook on humanity, innovation, and wellness, kind of going back to your upbringing, how, you grew up what brought you here to Miami? And
Sure. It's been a winding road, so I'll say that, but very fun and interesting. So I grew up in the Bay Area. My mother's from South Korea and my dad's from South Dakota. So
that's awesome. Where in the Bay Area did you grow up?
In Northern California. So
I know. I grew up in Nevada.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. I grew up in Livermore.
Okay, so just on the east side.
Exactly. My father works at the lab there. So it was, I often talk about my parents because I joke that South is the only similarity between their two cultures, right? And so they met when they were almost 40 and had my sister and I. And that was really unusual in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
So when we, growing up in sort of the Silicon Valley times, and it's a very innovative place, and we used to travel to Korea almost every single year as kids. So I think, and then also visit South Dakota. So I think in a way,
such a different, right?
In a way, yeah. In a way, I felt like I now realize so many of my friends are third culture kids, and I hadn't thought about it, but that's really how I grew up, right? California's value systems, how they think, is so different than both of those places that my parents grew up. And I think because of that, from a young age, I just had this perspective that there's no one right way to live or right way to think. Everybody has their own perspectives on just how they want to navigate life.
Yeah, no, that's really great. And you've worked across so many different industries, from luxury, fashion, to even healthcare.
Yeah.
What connects all of these experiences for you, and what have they taught you about human-centered innovation?
Yeah, I accidentally became an engineer, probably because my dad is a physicist.
So Silicon Valley, I feel like you're kind of pushed towards some kind of a tech situation,
Absolutely. But I really had already applied I was going to go to Cal, Berkeley, as an international relations minor in math. And I had already sent in my acceptance. I was going to go, and last minute, it's funny how these experiences can completely change the trajectory of your life. And my mom was very strict. So in high school, I thought I could get a few days to just kind of explore and have an experience. So I went to this pre-freshman orientation at a school called Harvey Mudd. Nobody's ever heard of it, but it was the best in engineering. And I thought, why not just check it out? And I was so enamored and inspired by the students. It's only 800 kids. So
that's really small. I went to Dominican University, which is also small, but not as small as that.
Yeah. What was your experience like?
I mean, I went actually like in the evenings after I had my first exit. So it was probably very different from like the experience you would have like going in the beginning. But it was a beautiful campus. It's, like the Levi's family has donated a lot of money to it. So it's like, it's really beautiful. It was a really good experience going there.
I'm glad to hear it. Yeah. It's so important, I think, for that experience because it shapes you and it opens your mind, right? So I think this was the first time I had seen students that were so engaged in life and what they were curious and very open-minded and then very creative. So I decided to change my mind last minute, not even knowing what I was going to study, but I kept telling myself, okay, I can go to foreign services after, no problem. So I went there and picked one of the 6 majors. Since they were the best in engineering, I decided to do that. And afterwards, I thought, okay, 4 years of engineering. I'm done with school for a while, so let me see how I can use this. And it was in my classes when my professors actually pointed out to me that what made me unique compared to the other students was that I was always thinking about the human that I was designing for. I was always thinking about who's going to use it, how are they going to feel when they use it, what do I want them to feel when they use it. And it could have been a product, it could have been a service, could have been an experience that I was designing, and it didn't sort of matter. But I realized that I was always, what to bring it back to your original question, the thread was always transformation. It's like, if you're going to go through this and experience whatever I'm building, I want to shape that experience in a way that it feels like you're really enjoying life more, or it's making your life easier, or some sort of positive transformation in that. And so I've loved working in so many different industries in so many different countries. And I think every experience, right, you can layer on top of another one and just see a different perspective that allows you to understand how to kind of create more depth.
That's a really great answer to that question. Thank you so much, Florence. And let's kind of jump into, gently into your cancer diagnosis. And I know that became a turning point in your life. And instead of just surviving, you chose to reset your life, which is a huge deal. And congratulations.
Thank you.
And how did that journey rewrite your understanding of success, health, and like really what's important, the self-worth?
Yeah. So I'll jump to the answer and then I'll kind of rewind to kind of give a little more context, because it was a very unusual response I had. So for me, when I found out I had cancer, it was actually a very liberating experience. And I felt this immediate, almost surrender and faith in whatever is going to happen is exactly what's meant to happen. And for the first time in my life, I felt like everything was exactly how it was meant to be. The other way that I explain it to people is I think for success, right? So if I back up, I was an executive at Burberry, and then I was an executive at Estée Lauder, and these jobs just getting better, bigger and bigger, right? I had more responsibility, which usually meant more hours, and I had done a lot of work with different coaches and experts to improve my performance and become more efficient, optimize everything in order to obviously not burn out and just continue to get better and better. And I thought this is the way that you keep going. So, right, every next level, you just continue to optimize your life. And it was in this random cancer diagnosis, because I want to say we have no family history. There was no symptoms. It made no sense. I'm very healthy. I have a very typical California diet. Like, I don't eat sugar, processed foods. I don't drink. I don't, drink
right.
I'm quite boring. Yeah. Like from that, because I just am so in tune with my body from that angle that I, those were just choices I made, and I never felt like they were sacrifices. So I had a very healthy life. I was very physically also, I was really good about exercising and things like that. And so it really was surprising. It didn't make any sense because I had done all the longevity blood work, biomarkers, everything always came back perfect. So when it happened, while some part of me and other people were very shocked because it didn't make any sense,
Right.
deep down, I wasn't surprised, because I think something continued to tell me that something was off. Like, I think, especially as women, we have such a deep intuition, and I had learned to almost override that intuition, because I think that, you know, just the way society kind of frames winning and being successful is that you see an obstacle and you just, you know, find your way around it, right? And as an engineer and as women, we're very resourceful, we're creative thinkers, and we just figure out a way. And I'm sure, you know, you have children, right? And you have all these things that, you know, as you move through life, you have all these new responsibilities and you just figure out a way to make it.
Yeah, I mean, they tell you that the more you have on your plate, the more you can take on, right?
Yes.
That's kind of what you're talking about.
That's what
right?
yeah, exactly. So I thought that I was winning in this way, and I thought I was doing a great job, but something deeper down said, something's a little bit off. So I explain it like, when I found out I had cancer, it was like I was driving my car of life, and I suspect all the warning lights had gone off, and every time I saw it, I'm like, no problem. No problem. I can drive this car. I still feel great. Like, I'll just, you know, deal with it like this, no problem. I'm driving. And then all of a sudden, the stage for cancer is like my wheels fell off, and I said, oh, I was supposed to stop driving the car. Like, it wasn't until that moment that I realized the strategy that I kept taking was not working. And my body and my intuition was trying to tell me, you need to shift this, but I just didn't understand that. And so when this kind of bigger, obviously, event happened, I realized I must have been missing all the other whispers and voices telling me this is not the way. And so that immediate sort of liberation of like, oh, now I see something I didn't see. And, you know, I can figure it out from here. But now I'm going to stop and reset. I'm going to say, okay, let's take a pause and figure out, if this is not the way, then what is the way?
No, that's a great answer. And I'm looking forward to finding out what actually the way is. And let's talk about becoming a little bit. And I know it's not just the wellness brand. It's really a recalibration tool for modern human, probably women, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through what the Life Reset protocol is and how it transforms someone's inner operating system?
Sure. So it's for everybody, but we do find a lot of women, like I said, with so many responsibilities, it really is a great reset for them. Men tend to come to us slightly for different reasons. I think for them, they're sort of stuck in this paradigm of like, win or lose. Like, it's a very almost binary way of life that's very stressful. Whereas I feel like, just take on a lot of roles and responsibilities and try to do everything, right? And then, you know, can't find ourselves in that. So to answer your question, it's really about slowing down and finding this space in order to figure out how to design your life based on really, who am I? Right. And asking yourself that question very clearly and saying, well, actually, how do I want to live? And so there's a couple of data points that I'm going to throw out there just to anchor this. So the first is that I learned in this process that 95% of our decisions are made by our unconscious.
Wow. So that's great. That's an interesting fact.
Yeah. So think about, if we're optimizing all these things, we're optimizing the 5% that we're conscious of, right, in those decisions. But 95% of us is kind of like, in a way, can be working against us. And so when we're born, we have, you know, this beautiful, innocent, sort of true essence of who we are. And I think over life, we get inherited beliefs, right? We get behaviors, habits that we learn from the environment, from our parents, from society, and from our experiences. And we build this protection around ourselves that's meant to help steer us and protect us from various different things. But actually what we find is that a lot of that becomes the unconscious that actually moves us away from where we're trying to go. And so what we do is we actually start to release and remove that. And what's so nice is that instead of, when you're, you know, we all are very busy, instead of giving you more things to do, we try to figure out actually what are the unconscious patterns that are almost sabotaging you that you're not even aware of. And if we can go to the root and figure out what those are, we can just rewire one or two things, and there's a whole domino effect, and your life actually flows a lot easier, and you're actually working, your system and your unconscious is working for you versus against you.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks so much for sharing that. No idea, and that'll be a really interesting fact to share too with everybody. And you said that you need to shift our relationship with both ourselves and technology to like. And I always hear people talking about that, I think, and because technology is designed to be addictive, And what do you think most people are getting wrong about the balance? Because I feel like there's all this different information out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think fundamentally it's just that technology is a tool. So I don't think it's inherently good or bad. I think it's really something that can be quite amazing as long as you're conscious about how you want to use it. So it's sort of that same approach of actually, how do I want to live? What do I actually want? Starting from that clarity and saying, okay, how can technology amplify my life, right? Make it better. And we all have different habits that become, I would say, what a lot of people find when they start to do our kind of reset is that we've built a lot of coping mechanisms into our lives because it's just can be very stressful, right? So a lot of times we will grab for our phones or we will jump onto something as a way to almost avoid some sort of uncomfortable feeling that we don't want to sit with. And so,
100%. Yep.
Yeah. And so I think what's super beautiful without having to like fully go through our program and things like this, what people I think can do is starting to realize, first of all, that our emotions are just meant to be there as signals, right? They're just there. They're something that we all feel. There's nothing to feel shame or guilt or any of that. Oh, if they're just really there to say, hey, there's, this is not something you want. Like there's a lesson. It's trying to tell you something. So I think embracing that those emotions or those feelings that maybe you're uncomfortable with are actually just kind of guideposts. They're trying to help you create a better life and more clarity. And I think once we stop avoiding and we start seeing that, I think that starts to help us go, okay, it doesn't, I think there's a fear that a lot of people have when they have a reset, like I have to throw away my life, right? Or that something is going to
phone. I have to go on a detox.
Yeah, everything becomes a very extreme, and I think that's something we really want to shy away from because any sort of extreme reaction just kind of flips you to the other side, right? It's almost the shadow side of the same challenge. So what's beautiful is to realize, it doesn't have to completely change your life in a way that you don't want to. You're the one in control. So it's really like the more of these signals and information that you're taking in, then you're able to just be more informed. So thinking about it like that, and also allowing yourself to just enjoy things. Like if you just enjoy it, allow yourself to enjoy it, right? I think, we feel like we have to always be productive, and that's also, I think, something that's quite dangerous. And I think actually that's where technology can help, right? People are afraid of AI, people are afraid of these things, but actually these are tools to help us be more productive without us working as hard. So it's
exactly,
like, how do we actually create more free time and play is how I think of all these changes.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think that's the completely opposite of being scared, right? It's being excited and what can we create now, right?
What can we do with it? Exactly.
Well, now let's shift a little bit into style and fashion.
Yes.
And as someone who has helped shape luxury and tech for global brands, how has your personal style evolved through your personal professional transformations? Because I'm sure it has.
Okay, actually, you just reminded me of something really fun. I was working at Burberry, and I mean, that was so fun because I've always loved fashion, and then to be in like technology, but in the fashion world, as you know, can be quite a fun way to express yourself. And there was something that I always loved, really beautiful silhouettes. You can tell, like I love pencil skirts. I love like this sort of fitted, I'm 6 feet tall.
I know, I was like, wow, you're really tall.
And I love, just for you tall ladies out there, I love wearing heels. And yes, I have men who come up to me and they're like, why are you wearing heels? And I was like, because they look good and I love them. Like, it's not about just height. So yes, keep wearing those heels. So one of the big changes that I made is I stopped wearing outfits and things that really pinched my waist. And so, like, you can tell by this is actually still very form-fitting, and it fits nicely around it.
Like, nice.
Yeah, but I've become quite thoughtful about the fabrics that I wear. Also, now that I live partially in Miami, it's
like
hot.
Yeah, I'm like dying in this right now.
But you look amazing. So sometimes we have to suffer for the beauty. So no, but I joke and I realize, like, for me, breathable fabrics. But actually, so I'm going to bring it back to how it changes our day to day. Is I realize I need to feel comfortable in my clothing, because if I'm not, then I show up differently, and then that completely changes.
No, that literally ruins your day if you.
And I'm the person who I don't plan outfits. I'm always like, I wake up and I'm like, what mood am I in today? And it's like that. So for me, it's a very fun thing. There's no wrong way. I very rarely wear the same combo twice. But coming back to this pinching thing, so there was one of my experts I worked with back in 2017, and he almost, you can think of it like, it's called Feldenkrais, but it's almost like like physiotherapy meets, you're on one of those tables and they're adjusting you.
Yes.
And he did something to me on my diaphragm. And I was like, whoa, what did you just do? I feel like you connected two parts of my body. I just realized that the top half of me and the bottom half felt disconnected. And he said, your diaphragm was stuck. You've literally been breathing through your chest versus your belly. And now, all those yoga people are like, breathe in your belly. I was like, what are they talking about? Like, it's like, it was hard for me to do that. I had to think about it. Yeah. And I realized that actually the way that a lot of, figures and everything, like we're taught that we want these tiny little waists, and the way that we actually breathe and we try to squeeze into these things is actually changing our breathing, which when you have that actually creates anxiety, and you're stuck in fight or flight mode with the dysregulated nervous system. So I realized I was living in New York in fight or flight mode, and living from that place. And I'm like, well, no wonder. I just learned to normalize it. And actually so many people are living in this state and don't realize it. And once you actually make this adjustment, after that, I suddenly realized, okay, I need to make sure I'm always able to breathe very comfortably. Right. Otherwise, you don't even realize you're creating anxiety for yourself. And looking down at the phone's another example of that. Actually, looking below your horizon creates your mood actually kind of gets, it lowers your mood, basically. So just realizing that that's why sometimes we have to look up, we have to look further. These sorts of things kind of create a more intense myopic lens, and actually kind of over time makes us feel sadder and sadder. So like, it's like things like this.
That's super interesting. Yeah.
You start to realize like there's reasons why we don't even realize that our environment is actually, in the way that we have normalized, actually making us
and what you wear too.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't be too tight on your waist.
Yes.
Since I moved to Miami, I'm never like, I guess it's just too hot. Like, you can't have too tight of things. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's good, because you really have to have a little bit of breathing.
Correct. Yeah.
Otherwise, it'll stick to you.
Correct. Yeah. Most of my stuff is quite stretchy. Exactly.
Well, you lived and worked everywhere, from New York to Miami, Paris to Hong Kong. How does place and culture influence your identity and how you show up in the world?
Oh my goodness.
I'm sure it's different here than Hong Kong, or Paris. So I would love to hear that, because it's very interesting what people say about the difference.
And I say you have such insightful questions. I've been on many podcasts, but you really get to the core question. Well, first, I think what I find fascinating is that your identity is not fixed. And there's the core essence of who we are, and the identity is really, like I said, just all of these, like how we decide to show up in society. And I think for me, when you are in an environment, right, how people perceive you and sort of your identity shifts without you even realizing. Like for one silly example, when I moved from San Francisco to Hong Kong, first thing people would say to me is, "Oh my gosh, you're so tall."
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. I was just thinking, I was like, of course it had to be about your height.
Well, I was 32. No one, I mean, once in a while people would ask me, "Did you play basketball?" You know, these questions. But honestly, it didn't really come up. And so all of a sudden I'm 32 and my height is like my main identity there.
Yeah.
And then I wore these 6-inch heels because I was working in Burberry there, and I'd go to Korea, I'd go to China, I'd go to Japan. I wear these things, and so like it was really, and I was
surprised you didn't get into modeling if somebody didn't like push you into that. You know?
When I was younger, I had a short stint, but it was not my bag. But I mean, that's a silly example, but actually it's an informative one, because all of a sudden I was the tall person, and it was a point around, now all of a sudden I was very visible and I was very seen. So there was a lot that came with it, where it was almost like I was a bigger than life character, and I hadn't changed, but just the perception of who I was had. But for me internally, I think what's great is it allowed me to really kind of expand and play into different parts of my personality and figure out sort of how I wanted to show up in these ways, and actually just be really grateful that that it is something that you realize can be so dynamic, and then you can choose sort of where.
Yeah. And where are you in Miami?
In Miami is, I think I'm probably the opposite of what people's perception of Miami is. For me, Miami is a beautiful, restorative place that reminds me of San Francisco like 30 years ago, where there's a freedom that you can say anything, you can be as ridiculous as you want. And I think right now, in our sort of macroeconomic, political, culture state right now, I find it really matches the liberation that I feel, that no matter where I go, you see people doing the craziest things. It's very cowboy, dressing however they want, people in bikinis at the airport, like it's so all over the place. And I think that, and nobody judges it or says anything.
Exactly.
You know? Like,
yes.
we all just laugh and we say, okay,
it's
like
Miami.
It's Miami. Exactly, it's Miami. Be who you want, do whatever you want. And I think, for me, again, that's really, really inspiring. So I wouldn't say I have like the typical Miami look or fashion or any of these things, but I would say I feel very comfortable, and I love meeting people, because you can't make assumptions here, because how they look, how they dress, how they are, you have no idea. And I love that.
Yeah, no, me too. That's what brought me here too 10 years ago. It's going to be 10 years for me on November 15th, which is crazy. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And did you bring a pair of shoes, or do you have a pair of...
I actually brought them. I'm wearing.
Okay,
I wore them.
Let's take one.
That's how practical I am.
I know. Take one off, and then we could talk about it. You don't have to take both of them off, but we could...
Yeah,
and you could tell us the story behind these, and they're really beautiful for people that are watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or not watching on YouTube. They are these booties. They're kind of like, what would you say? Carrie's been wearing them in Sex and or just like that. She's been wearing this kind of style.
Yeah. So
these are gorgeous. What is the brand? I can't.
You know what? I don't even know. So I got these in.
I love when you don't even know, and they're just like they look like they're like vintage.
Yeah, and they are at this point. So I got them in 2012 in a it was a boutique shop run by a French woman in San Francisco, and I would not say
I love those kind of boutiques.
Yes, and I don't have many things from San Francisco because it's not really a fashion capital, but I got them.
They are San Francisco led, though.
Yeah, well, they are Italian. They're handmade leather, and these shoelaces are actually hand dyed. So if you pull them apart,
that's really cool.
You can actually see that they get darker and lighter in certain areas. But what I love about them and why they're some of my favorites is they're very comfortable. I can walk in a trade show conference all day with them, and I have. And so that's something that I just is really important to me, is like shoes have to be comfortable where I can
now
walk
like
10
that.
miles.
Yeah, now that I have kids, I feel just like I need that. Or now that I'm over 40, I feel like it's not as like I still wear these, but like I'm not gonna.
Oh, actually, my stilettos are the same. I can walk miles.
Like, but I love like more this kind of like height now, you know.
Yes.
And like more like stability and stuff. But you know, I still do like
these are beautiful.
Thank you. Those
I have some great Burberry ones that actually they're really, really thin stilettos like this one,
but they're stable.
They're very stable. They're very stable, and so. Yeah, it doesn't for me matter what, and I love boots as I wrote on the back, and I love, but boots that are high heels generally, and yeah, for me, it's really, they have to really kind of make the outfit, kind of pull it all together, and at the end of the day,
you literally wear those with anything. You can wear it with what I'm wearing, with what you're wearing.
Exactly, they're like very versatile.
Yeah,
and I travel a lot, so I have a very kind of, I guess, unique way of packing, which is I pack on color themes because generally I'm going to generally I'm going on to two or exactly. And someone asked me it because I usually go to 2 or 3 countries, and I usually have business, like fun, and they're usually multiple different climates. So they're like, how do you deal with it? And I was like, everything in there has to have multiple purposes, right? To your point, I can wear this casually or not, and
I probably don't want to drag like a huge suitcase. You just
always
carry on. So you literally have to be super strategic. Even though you don't like choosing your outfit, you're doing it.
And I'm like one of those weirdos who actually dresses like normal in the plane. So I might even wear these on the plane. So for me, everything's like very comfortable. So I mean, you might have for comfort.
You know, that's awesome. Well, let's jump into this fun little quick fire.
Okay, let's do it.
Morning journaling or evening reflection?
You know what? I'm not a good journaler. How about morning reflection? I tend to be a morning reflection person.
I like that. I think morning reflection is probably when most people do their reflection.
Well, I like to set things up for the day because I find if I do that, then everything just flows from there.
Yeah, agreed. Statement heels or tailored sneakers?
Ooh, definitely heels.
Breathwork reset or weekend retreat?
Ooh, breathwork.
Paris rooftop cafe or Tokyo tech immersion?
It has to be Paris. I do love a good rooftop.
Yes, Paris is fabulous. Everybody's in Paris right now. I'm like looking at my hands, like everybody's there.
I do love Tokyo though.
Yeah, Tokyo's fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
These are very tough.
All black minimalism or bold color therapy?
I tend to be a minimalist. I tend to be one like.
Yeah, I see you more. I see more. I don't see you like in a hot pink suit or anything.
You know what? I have a couple of like, not like I would say red statement pieces or bright green, like this sort of thing. But it's very rare. I'm much more of a monotone.
And that's awesome too. Startup chaos or ancient forest calm?
Oh, ancient forest calm.
For sure. Silk kaftan or a structured power blazer?
I like structured. I'm a structured blazer all the way.
Deep tech innovation or soulful human connection? I think I know the answer to that.
Soulful human connection for sure.
Well, Florence, thank you so much for sharing your brilliance, your humanity, and your bold path to becoming. Your story reminds us that transformation isn't about doing more, it's about becoming more ourselves. And before we close, I have one final question I ask most of our guests. What does it mean to you to walk boldly in your shoes, especially now?
I think it's really about just being present. I think, it's not surprising that the cancer kind of made me very aware that all we have is really this moment, and the most we can make of it and just be in it. I think so many opportunities come from there, because if you think too much in the future, then you become anxious. And if you're too much in the past, there's a lot of regret and something. Yeah. And so really, I think the more and more present I am and the more I enjoy just this moment, everything really just flows.
That's a beautiful answer. Thank you so much. And to all of our listeners, if you have ever felt stuck or in survival mode or disconnected from your own rhythm, this episode is your invitation to pause, reflect, and reset. Thanks to Florence. And be sure to follow Florence's journey. Check out Becoming. We'll share all the links and tune into the full episode. and share it with your girlfriends and other people and anybody, because I think there's such amazing advice here. And until next time, stay grounded, stay visionary, and remember, the most powerful thing you can wear is your truth. Bye, ladies.